name is Toby, and you're welcome to my YouTube channel. Today, I'm going to be talking about my journey through medical school. I'm going to divide the video into two parts. So, this first part is going to be preclinicals, and then for the next part, is going to be clinicals. So, where do I start from? Let me take you back to the very beginning. I have always wanted to be a doctor for as long as I can remember. Honestly, there was never a time when I did not want to be a doctor. I'm so sorry for the background noise. They're doing some construction, and unfortunately, you might probably hear that. Anyway, I have always wanted to be a doctor, and that was just what I wanted to do. I wanted to be a doctor. And my parents were actually very supportive right from a young age. I got this mini first aid kit. It was a toy. I think it had a mini stethoscope and a tiny drug, and it was just a small white box, a small white first aid toy box. I got it probably when I was like 5 or 6. I think I was being younger because I've had that box for a very long time. Then also my dad got me a mini microscope when I was 12. 11, 12 though, my dad got me a microscope. So they have always been very supportive of me, and I have always wanted to be a doctor. When people say that they used to change their future ambitions and what they wanted to be when they grew up, I have never had that. I never had that when I was growing up. All I wanted to be was a doctor. So fast forward to secondary school, I was doing very well in math and my science subjects, except physics. Physics and I have never been friends at all. We have a very relationship, but my math was good, my English was good, my biology and my chemistry were good. So I was on the path to becoming a doctor. After I finished just 3, I moved on to SS1 and I was in science class. When I was trying to write JAM, I wrote my English, biology, chemistry, and physics. For my WAEC, of course, I had my science subjects and I applied to medicine. At first, I applied to a school where I stayed in Jos, but my dad said no, I should go to a private school. So I applied and I moved to a private school. Now, this is like where my whole medical journey started. I went for the interview and everything, and they even asked me at some point, like, what if you don't get medicine? And I said, okay, maybe I'll do anatomy or physiology. When I told my father, he was so pissed. He's like, what do you mean? They said, what if you don't get medicine? Tell them there's medicine that you want to do. So they gave me I got my admission letter and everything, and so I resumed. So I resumed university October 3rd, 2017, and that was where my journey to medicine started properly. So I actually have a lot of notes that I have written down. This video has been in my head for close to 6 years now. I have always been saying that I'm going to document this whole medical school journey and talk about it, but I decided to leave it till after I was done with school. And I have a lot of notes written down, so if you see me looking down, I'm probably looking at my book. I resumed university 3rd of October 2017, and I started attending classes. So in 100 level, basically what we were doing at the time, the whole schedule and curriculum was basically SS3 work, just advanced SS3 work. So that was where we were having all the GSTs. We have like 5 GSTs. We're having math, physics, chemistry, biology, mini practicals, basically things that we had done in secondary school. So it was like a little walkover. I'm not saying it was not hard. It was hard, but it was not as gruesome as you would think. There were things that were easier to navigate, and once you understand the concept and you understand the lecturers, you're good to go. So 100 level was a new experience for me because I had attended boarding school, so I was already used to living with other people in a completely different state, but there was a bit more freedom, even though I was in a private school, so we're not allowed to leave school. So it was practically almost like a glorified secondary school. However, there was still freedom. Like, we weren't wearing uniforms, even though we had a dress code, but at least there was more freedom of um what to wear, even the hair, and then like you could do makeup, and you could choose whether or not you wanted to go to school. You actually had that choice. Not like in secondary school that everybody would be kicked out of the hostel, but you could choose whether or not you wanted to go to school. So when I was in 100 level, I would wake up as early as 5 a.m. I had this roommate that had this routine. She would wake up at 4, and when she wakes up, I usually wake up around that time. So I'll wake up around 5, have my bath, get ready for school, and then leave. I usually used to leave my room around 6:30, sometimes 6 o'clock. If I had gotten up earlier, I'll leave my room by 6 o'clock, and I would go to class and get a good seat. I like to sit down in the front, so I would go and get a good seat, and then sometimes I would keep I would keep seats for my friends. So that was basically it. We would have lectures. Sometimes we would have lectures in completely different halls, so we would have to leave the first hall early to be able to go to the second hall to go and get a good seat there, and then still have to go back to the first hall for a third lecture that day, and shuffling and all of that. But environment wise, it was a new environment for me, so I had to adapt a little bit. I had to make new friends because no friend of mine from secondary school went with me to the same university. I didn't go to the same university any of my secondary school classmates, so I had to make complete new friends, and I had to navigate living on my own but not on my own at the same time, because I wasn't living off campus. I was staying on campus, and because the school was not, we're not, like I said, we're not allowed to leave the school, so we had to stay on campus. But now there was a little bit more allowance on what I could or could not do, things like that. But then academic wise, it was not so bad, because I would make sure that as soon as I get back home, after my practicals, I would do all my assignments, all my drawings and everything that day. We used to have practicals on Thursdays. Thursdays were our practical days. So on Thursday evening, by the time I get back after my practical by 6, I would get food, eat. Once I'm done eating, I would do all my drawings, all the assignments, everything before I go to bed. Yes, I've always been a very booky, nerdy person. I've always loved school. So anything school, count me in, I will do it. So things were going very well. There were some courses that were actually very hard, and getting to university, you realize that there are some lecturers that are actually very toxic and nasty, and they want nasty things. We will not get into that today. Anyway, it was academically, it was okay. At the end of 100 level, I got a 4.7. Yeah, I think my CGPA was 4.77 or so. All good, life is good. So I knew that I was supposed to, I knew that I was going to get into 200 level. Now, 200 level was where medical school got real. Like, that was where it was, oh, I'm in medical school now. I'm no longer in like university. I'm actually in medical school. So 200 level, that's the first year of preclinical. So how it is 100 level is like pre-medicine, then 200 and 300 preclinicals, 400 to 600 clinicals, and then you're done with school. So 200 was the first year of preclinicals, right? And honestly, it was a lot. So I actually have a post on TikTok and Instagram. Go and check them out. That highlights my rating of the different years while I was in school, from 100 level to 600 level. So I rated all of them, so you can check that there. However, 200 level was the beginning of preclinicals, and in preclinicals, like I said, in 100 level it was SS3 work, but then 200 level now we have entered actual medicine. So we're doing anatomy, physiology, and biochemistry. We still had one or two GSTs and then BST, because I was in a faith-based school, so we had to do Bible studies. However, basically now we're just doing anatomy, physiology, and biochemistry. And you hear 3 courses, you would think that, oh, it's nothing too serious. It's actually more serious than you think. So I'm not going to go into too much detail about the whole curriculum and everything that surrounds the whole anatomy and whatever. Just know that in 200 level is more of basically for all the for anatomy, physiology, and biochemistry, we go by systems. Anatomy and physiology mostly we go by systems. So we all know that there are different systems in the body, right? I believe we all do. So there's the head and neck. There's head and neck, the cardiovascular system, respiratory system, gastrointestinal system, urogenital system, musculoskeletal system, like that, right? So the we had the courses based on the systems, and I know in some schools they used to write semester exams in medical school, but in my school we didn't write from 100 level. 100 level is the last time that you write semester exams. 200 level, 300 level, you write your exams at the end of the year. So we would have anatomy lectures on the systems. We had upper limb, lower limb, thorax, abdomen, pelvis and perineum, then head and neck. That was what it was. Then for physiology, we had respiratory, cardiovascular, reproductive, urinary, and basically all the systems. For each system, there were different lecturers. So different lecturers come and take different topics, and then obviously we have to go and read those topics, right? So my issue with how to so 200 level, like I said, that was the beginning of preclinicals. So for me it was a bit hard because it was new territory. It was brand new territory. Like, you would think that as a human being who has these systems, you understand the systems, right? Not really. Anatomy is going into the structure of the body, then physiology is going into the function. So correlating it was a bit hard for me because it was more theory than something that I could see. The only thing that was a bit visible for me was in anatomy we had to do cadaver dissection. But then, unfortunately for us, the cadavers that we had were old and they were not preserved very well. So most times we were not really getting that experience the way it was supposed to be. There is this set of videos on anatomy and dissection and everything. Honestly, I'm so sad that I cannot remember the name, but I'm going to find the name while I'm editing and I will insert it so that you guys can see it. I honestly cannot remember the name of the person, but he was the one that got me through my anatomy. Honestly, his dissection and everything was so good. He used very well preserved cadavers, and honestly, he was the person that helped me to get through my anatomy. So that was it for anatomy. Then physiology was more of the function, so that one was more theory actually. But for my physiology, Ninja Nerd, he did his big one. I was always following his videos. I would sit down and watch his 50 something minutes or 1 hour long videos just so that I could understand. Also, Dr. Campbell, I think that's his name, Dr. Campbell. If it's not it, I'll still insert his name. Dr. Campbell also, he taught really good physiology. Then for biochemistry, oh god. To this day, right, I honestly cannot understand how I passed my biochemistry. Every year, 200 and 300 level, I was always prepared for biochemistry receipts. I was always prepared to rewrite the exam because I did not understand anything that was happening. To this day, I still don't understand anything that's happening. But we bless God for his mercies that I was able to pass biochemistry and go. So basically, 200 level, like I said, it was the beginning of preclinicals. So it was the beginning of like medicine and understanding like the structure and the function and everything. So the downside of it was the fact that first of all it was new work, and then secondly the time was not enough because we had, and yes, I'm going to call him out, we had this lecturer that would come in for anatomy lectures. He would come in, we used to have lectures from 8 to 10. He would come in around 9:30, and within the time that from 9:30 till a few minutes to 10, he would teach us something in anatomy that was worth up to, and I am not exaggerating, honestly, it was worth up to 40 something to 50 something pages. Honestly, it could be like 4 or 5 chapters long, and he'll teach it in 30 minutes and be like, just go and read it, just go and read it. The first time he did that thing, he was like, nobody should open textbooks in the class. So I was like, okay, understandable. You want us to listen to what you're saying. And so he just kept on talking. And, he would say, oh, this is this is that. All these things that in your textbook, you just go and you read. It's not taking you up to 30 minutes to finish reading everything. So I was like, oh, okay, that's not bad. Like, that's really nice. Since it's like 30 minutes now, meaning like it's small work. Yeah, no. It was not small work. It really was not small work. When I got back home that day to read, I opened the page, and this man from pages 1 to I think about 50 something, he did about 4 chapters in the span of like 20 minutes that day. That was the beginning of the betrayal of medical school, because I was like, how can you come in 20 minutes, you've already finished 4 chapters. You know that this is a new class, and yet this is the foundation that you are giving me. So honestly, it was terrible. So I still used to do my regular reading. I would, after my lectures, I'll make sure that I read and try to understand everything that was going on. Then after, like I said, 200 level, at the end of 200 level, write an exam. So read the exam. Thankfully, I passed. I did not fail biochemistry like I thought I was going to, and then it was off to 300 level. So 300 level, still a continuation from 200 level, but now is more of neuro and head and neck. Like I said, we're doing in 200 level, we're doing in preclinicals, we're doing anatomy, physiology, biochemistry. So we're doing like the systems and stuff. But when you get to 200 level, is more of like all the other systems. Then 300 level is head and neck. Why do you think neurosurgeons are paid so much money? Head and neck is not something that is so easy. So in anatomy, we're doing head and neck. In head and neck and neuroanatomy, that's all the nerves and stuff. Then in physiology, we're doing neurophysiology. So all this, everything neurology. And then in biochemistry also, we were doing things that had to do with nerves, all these myelin, whatever, and GABA and all that stuff. So that was basically what we're doing in 300 level. So the thing is, 300 level to me was easier than 200 level, but at the same time it was not easier, because 300 level was like building off of 200 level, right? But like I said, the foundation we had in 200 level was not so good, so I was building off of like a kind of a rocky-ish foundation, but at the same time I was understanding things more in 300 level than in 200 level. I don't know how to explain it. All I know is that that's how it is. 300 level was also when COVID hit. We were supposed to be in school from March till December when we write our exams, but then we ended up going home from March till October when we resumed to write the exam in December. Thankfully, I passed that one also. I forgot to mention, in 200 and 300 level, we're doing community medicine. We're having community medicine lectures. Save this information for later. So we're having community medicine lectures. We did not write any exam on them though. So basically that was it. And also, I've heard in some universities that some people start pharmacology from 300 level. So I don't really know about that though. But in my school, we had only anatomy, biochemistry, and physiology. I preferred 300 level actually to 200 level. I would rate both of them the same, but I think 300 level was a bit better for me. I think. I'm not sure. Anyway, that's all for the preclinicals. The next video is going to be me talking about clinicals. That is a very, very long story, but also going to be interesting. So stay tuned. Thank you so much for watching. This is going to be kind of the style of content. This is going to be most of the style of content that I'm going to be producing now, because I realized that I actually like yapping. I prefer yapping to like vlogs and stuff. So this is what we're going to be doing now. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Like, comment, share, subscribe, and all the fun stuff that people do on YouTube. And I will see you in my next video. Bye.